Tonight, a time for choosing her Veep. Kamala Harris nears a decision who gets participation trophies and who gets a rose. Plus, plot holes in the American Rescue story. New numbers show the economy struggling to turn the page. Also, yes, they did.
Yes, we can.
Now Harris hires the Obama Corps to do it again in 2024. And Georgia's GOP says,
bless his heart,
after one of their own throws in for Harris, right as Donald Trump jumps a midnight plane to Georgia. The supposedly sour peach responds in moments. Live at the table, Jeff Duncan, Mo Alethi, Jason Osborne, and Lauren Leader. Welcome to a special edition of NewsNight, State of the Race.
Good evening. I'm Jessica Dean in New York. Abby Phillip is off tonight. And let's get right to what America is talking about. That's job interviews. Kamala Harris closing in on a potentially campaign-altering decision. That's choosing her vice presidential nominee. And this weekend, she's meeting with the final contestants in what's been the most watched reality show this summer. We've got our panel here to talk all about it. Good evening, everyone. It's a summer Friday, and we have a Veepstakes going on. Is this Josh Shapiro's job to lose? I think that is what the buzz is as we close out this Friday. Mo, what are you hearing?
Look, I got out of the prediction game in politics after 2016, right?
That's the year we all got out.
But I think she's got a couple of really strong options, and I think all of them bring something to the table. There is a lot of buzz about Governor Shapiro right now. He balances ideologically the ticket a bit. He's really good, really dynamic on the stump. And this is an election where you really want a really good and dynamic running mate out on the stump. And he might be worth a couple of points in a state that is a must win for her and that will probably be decided by a couple of points. But I think when you look at him and you look at Secretary Buttigieg and you look at Governor Walz, the great thing about this field is I don't think she goes wrong with any of them. I think each of them can bring something that will help do the most important thing a running mate can do, help her win.
But does a Shapiro hurt her with that left-wing part of her base on the progressive side that is, you know, the Free Palestine movement?
No.
Well, a lot of us in the Jewish community are very worried about that. I mean, that's been one of the, I think, sort of undercurrent concerns among Jewish Americans is that given the climate and the anti-Semitism of the last, you know, that has become so fevered in the last year, there are real questions. I mean, and then there are some folks on the left who are already trying to paint him as genocide Josh. It's repellent. All of the vice presidential candidates have basically indistinguishable positions on Israel, but he's the only Jewish candidate in the field, and so he has been tarred with this horrible label. But I would be shocked if she let that dissuade her, if he's her choice. She's married to a Jewish person. I think this is not something that she's going to allow to sidetrack. And, you know, we've also seen like a huge backlash in the Democratic Party against the far left. You know, Jamal Bowman lost his race. I think Cori Bush is very close to losing. So, you know, I think she needs that centrist vote. I feel like she's auditioning them all, not just for herself, but also for the whole party, right? She wants to sort of show everyone from all the factions that she's listening. You know, the union folks really love Walz. Buttigieg is beloved, but the guy's never won more than like 50 votes in his life. I adore him, but he doesn't bring anything electorally. But people are very, passionate about his leadership. So I think there's a kind of optics piece of this as much as
to your point about
Veepstakes.
he hasn't won more than 50 votes in his life, neither has she.
She's Attorney General of California. It's an enormous
I'm saying
state.
And a U.S. senator.
Position.
Right, yeah.
And
on
a U.S. senator.
On the presidential stage.
Well,
I mean, we're
she
talking
won.
about.
She was on the ballot with President Biden, so you can argue, as any vice president does, she won 14 million votes in the primary. So, I mean, I think that's a complete red herring about the vice president. About Harris. The issue, if she's trying to boost her chances by picking a vice presidential candidate that enhances something she lacks, that's why people keep looking at Shapiro. He's wildly popular, as is Walz, by the way. She's not going to have a problem winning Minnesota. I think the issue is going to be, some of the swing states like Pennsylvania. We know Cooper is out. I thought North Carolina was in play there, but she needs someone who has electoral prowess. And that's
she has
not something
0%
she
chance of making a mistake, I think, with the list of finalists. It's certainly not going to be a J.D. Vance moment like Donald Trump did when he picked a VP.
Low bar.
I think the elephant in the room for me is Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
It's a huge swing from where it looked like Pennsylvania was a lost cause with Joe Biden at the top of the ticket. Now with the Shapiro coming in, it probably flips enough points to bring that state in, and that regional effect on what it does to Michigan also, and the cascading events then into Wisconsin. I think it's a big play.
Yeah, I want to hear from Rabbi Jay Michelson, who's here with us. You're kind of the expert at the table on what we're talking about right now. And we had some reporting from our colleague Isaac Dover today, who talked about how some Jewish Democrats are nervous or wonder if America is ready for a Jewish vice president. What do you say to that?
We're ready.
And what do you say, too, to the idea that it is maybe a lot of Jewish people that are mostly nervous about it, about one of their own being in the spotlight?
We have reason to be nervous, as you were saying. The last few months have been pretty alarming. On the other hand, this country was ready for a Jewish vice president in 2000 when the the Jewish vice president was part of the ticket that won the popular vote. So I'm not really sure that is really the case. But, I think also folks like Josh Shapiro, and I'm not putting myself right next to him, but where you support both the existence of the state of Israel and hopefully the future existence of the state of Palestine and the aspirations of the Palestinian people. We get it from all sides. The right calls us self-hating Jews. Donald Trump has called me a non-Jew because I'm voting for Democrats.
He's done that also to Doug Imhoff this week. He called
there
him,
is no floor with this man. He will say anything. And look, the left has called me a capo and an apologist for genocide because of columns that I've written. So we're used to this. It's really easy to say that my side is always right and the other side is always wrong. It's a little more honest to say that a place that I do care about currently has a government that's prosecuting a war that I profoundly disagree with. That may be too nuanced for people who like everything to be black and white, but I think it actually resonates with the majority of the American people. And whatever votes may be lost on the far left are more than picked up, I think, with both centrist and liberal Democrats.
Yeah, I'm not saying, I don't agree. I mean, I'm not worried about losing those votes. And I think there are going to be folks on the far left who, have kind of written their own rules on this, that, they've been very marginalized in the party. They have no congressional power anymore. So, we'll see where it goes. I just think it is a little triggering for Jewish Americans right now. I mean, I think he's extraordinary. He's one of the most incredible orators. There's been some jokes going around online, that he's Barack Obama, like he's just so extraordinary as an orator. If he's her guy, if she has a comfort with him, if they believe in him and he's gone through the vetting, I mean, I really think he's going to be the pick.
And look, I say that, and I think this can apply to both sides of this, right? And I'm going to speak to those progressives who are nervous about him. As an Arab American who is very sympathetic to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza right now, if she chooses him, Governor Shapiro, and Governor Shapiro helps her win, I am 1,000% fine with it, because the alternative is Donald Trump. And if you think, as someone who is pro-Palestine, that Donald Trump will be better for the Palestinian people, you don't know what you're talking about, right? And the same can be said on the other side, I think, to Jewish Americans who may, like, if he helps her win, that is better for the country because Donald Trump is worse.
But I mean, we are talking about, when I bring it up, I'm only bringing it up from the standpoint of that far left aspect of the wing. When we're talking about a race in Pennsylvania, Georgia, for example, Michigan, Ohio, or not necessarily Ohio, but Arizona, where it's 5,000, 10,000 votes in a county, and you're losing part of your traditional base.
That's not their base. I think,
in the middle are
these are people that voted for Biden in 2000.
The 10% in the middle are very pro-Israel. And there's not
the balance is the youth vote.
This moment is one in which there's a plurality of potential VP picks. And if I were further to the left, I might also prefer somebody who's further to the left. When we get closer to the election, after Donald Trump says 85 more Islamophobic things, 25 more racist things, I do not think that progressives are not stupid, right? They are going to wake up and recognize, if they live in a swing state, that a protest vote is a vote for Donald Trump, and a vote for Donald Trump is a vote for Bibi Netanyahu.
The big concern in terms of the Democratic coalition was not about the far left, because that has not been, in states like Michigan, that's a factor, but it's not in many other places, and I think she makes that up. What now has come together is this extraordinary coalition of young people, of black women, of now, white women and the white dudes who turned out on the Zoom calls. I mean, the enthusiasm, I think she has such a window right now to really do what feels right to her because she has unbelievable momentum and the coalition is there. If it holds the way it's looking like it is, I mean, you don't get to $300 million raised with a big flank of the party not supporting you.
We always have this discussion about a presidential candidate picking a vice president that's going to help them win the state. And if you look at the last, at least since the 80s, I mean, for sure Cheney helped Bush win Wyoming.
With the two electoral votes, yes.
For sure, Biden helped Obama win Delaware. I mean, the only one, I mean, this is probably the first test of can a vice presidential candidate help the presidential ticket.
So here's my question.
Test case because this is an enormously popular governor, right? And that brings strength to the ticket, right? This is somebody who's not just from the state, but who is beloved. I mean, the numbers are off the charts.
He's a 62% approval rating in a state that's. I mean, no one gets 62% anywhere. Here's what I want to ask. Here's what I want to ask you though, because I think, look, it could be. She hasn't decided yet. We don't know who it's going to be.
Right.
Twitter
says otherwise.
Well, yes, and Twitter, all knowing, but our indications are she's still meeting with them, still making this decision. But it is obvious that Trump and Vance have zeroed in on Josh Shapiro. I want to play a clip of Vance and then saying something about Shapiro and then what he said back. Let's listen.
There's a lot of talk is going to be this guy Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, who, I've seen a couple clips of him talking. He talks like Barack Obama. It's like if I did try to do a really bad impression of Barack Obama.
Is that what he said? It's great. I love how we get the real-time quotes here. I mean, look, I don't know. Barack Obama was probably our most gifted orator of my time, so it's kind of a weird insult, I guess.
You got to use the magic word.
You got to use it.
Weird.
Drink. Have that word.
They need to wrap J.D. Vance with consultants every which way, personality consultants. And obviously, I keep seeing these weird ways he's sitting. Weird. There it is again. He needs a posture coach. This guy's slouched over like he's sitting in the corner of the locker room.
He was sitting in an interesting way. I noticed that as well.
But look, I love the way Josh Shapiro was quick on his feet and he embraced it. And it was just, he was talking like he was sitting at your kitchen table or walking down the street talking to his neighbors. He was a real person.
Yeah, but
and he embraced
says that any of us talk like Walter Cronkite, I think we take it as a compliment. So, if you say to Josh Shapiro, you sound like Barack Obama. I mean, that's praise.
So, okay, staying on Vance for a second, I want to play a clip. This is what he was saying about abortion. Let's listen.
Two wrongs don't make a right. At the end of the day, we're talking about an unborn baby. What kind of society do we want to have? A society that looks at unborn babies as inconveniences to be discarded? It's not whether a woman should be forced to bring a child to term, it's whether a child should be allowed to live, even though the circumstances of that child's birth are somehow inconvenient or a problem to the society.
So Donald Trump was poised to maybe find a way through on the abortion issue when he was running against Joe Biden, and they didn't talk about it much at the convention. And now, with Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket, of course, she is their chief speaker on abortion rights for that White House. And J.D. Vance is obviously very vocal on this issue. What do you make of how he is telegraphing this to voters, and where might that 10% that might actually decide this election, will likely decide this election in these swing states, how are they metabolizing
J.D. Vance, I mean, the comments that you're attributing to J.D. Vance, or that were attributed, were from 2021, right? That's not 2024.
Right.
And I think, in Donald Trump's defense, I think that's a question that's been asked and answered. I mean, he addressed it when he was president. He feels like mission accomplished, if we're going to use that term in this cycle. I don't think in his mind, you look at the platform of the Republican Party, we talked about this earlier, which nobody reads the platform except once every 4 years. There was nothing in there on the pro-life stance, and they didn't want to amend on it. So I think we have to look at the statements that J.D. Vance ran or made when he was running for Senate don't really necessarily correlate clearly. There were some attacks on Trump during that time or before that time. They don't correlate with the top of the ticket. And so,
well, unless you've picked up a copy of Project 2025, in which case it actually perfectly.
Yes.
Okay, it could be, but you know what? I think Republicans really lost the talking points on this one, because people on the left, voters, young people, you have major figures in the party who've gotten people to go Google and read what's in Project 2025. And whatever distance they try to put between it, the fact is it was authored by a whole bunch of folks who worked for Trump. And heritage has been at the core of Republican politics for decades. The problem with J.D. Vance, it doesn't matter when he said it, because ultimately, from a political perspective, what's happened? He's done exactly what you said. He brought back to the forefront an issue that Trump absolutely does not want to touch with a 10-foot pole, because the next part of that conversation is when you bring back the clips of Trump recently, within the last 5 years, saying that there should be punishment for women who seek abortions. He has repeatedly said that he is comfortable with the extreme restrictions in states that have happened because of Dobbs, and the result of that is you have women dying in emergency rooms because they've been denied life-saving care when they are having miscarriages. You have women who've been rendered sterile because they cannot access the basic health care that abortion provides. And you have J.D. Vance ignoring that. Comments that come back again to these very now seemingly dated pro-life positions, which Trump himself wants nothing to do with.
But
politically terrible.
Are we going to sit here and parse? I understand completely what you're saying. But are we going to sit here and discredit or say the same thing about Kamala Harris?
Yeah, they're going to bring up everything. Yeah, they're going to bring back everything.
Do you agree
she's ever said.
I mean, should we focus on that position or the position
that issue? There's no way to compare the issue of fracking to the moral question of abortion.
J.D.
Vance's moralizing tone.
I'm not talking about the issue.
I'm talking about his tone when he says that it's inconvenient for a woman to have a forced birth of the child of her rapist. That is inconvenient. Again, as a rabbi, that is a disgusting way to talk about what is such a profound choice. This isn't one issue. This is all of the issues. Whenever he talks on any moral issue,
are you going to go after Kamala on this too when she talks about defunding the police and all that stuff?
If you're going to die on the hill of comparing fracking to abortion, that's your choice.
But you can't sit there and say that it's one issue.
We're deep into a discussion, but we do have to take a break. We'll talk about it during the commercial break. Jay, I do want to say thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
The rest of our panel is going to stick around. Up next, this is what a campaign of retribution looks like. The Georgia Republican Party punishing one of its own, and the man they're attacking is here with us to respond. Plus, the band is getting back together. They're not John, Paul, George, and Ringo, but the Harris campaign is hiring Obama All-Stars out of retirement. They're hoping that means she wins in November.